So this is the first of two lectures, and these two lectures is really how to do a PhD. But these I don't mean really how to do research or anything, but really what is the attitude when you come to a PhD. The main reason why I decided to do these slides is that when I started many years ago, I realized that most of the PhD students come to the PhD as they just think that the PhD is pretty much like a master thesis, only a little longer. But as most of you, the senior ones, have learned, the PhD is completely different. And it's completely different for many reasons, but let me repeat. The main reason is that in a master thesis, I mean, even if you do the thesis, but when you give exams, people pre-digest the work for you. They give you the problem, you just have to do what they tell you. Instead, in a PhD, you have to learn how to do the work yourself. So a PhD is, as usually say, doing a PhD is solving a problem which takes at least 3 years to solve. But this means you have to learn how to solve problems. You need to learn how to think. You have to learn how to move when you don't know what you're talking about. You need to look in an area you have no idea, and you know that other people are working that area. They know much more than you. And then you know that at the end, if you want to get a PhD, you need to know more than anybody else in the world to get a PhD in your specific area of expertise. So this is a major paradigm shift. And this is another reason why the first year is so hard in the PhD. And this is why I said I put in two lectures. The first lecture, which is today, I'm really not really talking about to do a PhD, but more or less how to get organized yourself. I mean, there are basic notions of project management, but it's not really project management, because in project management, the issue is how you coordinate the work by others. Here, the main issue is how to coordinate your own work. And in particular, how you coordinate your own work in relation with the advisor or the advisors. Because one key point that you should learn in the PhD is that the more you move on in the PhD, the more you should become autonomous. But at the beginning, pretty much have no clue of what you're doing. So the advisor is fundamental. They have to teach you the methodology. They have to define the invisible colleges. They need to teach you how to write a paper. There are all these issues where you have no idea, right? And by the way, they're very sophisticated issues. Not that you just learn how to write a paper in one day. So this is really the foundations of this. So as I said, that today is about these basic notions, and really the next lecture is going to be how to organize the 5 years, 3, 4, 5 years of the PhD, minimum 3. In the US also they do that 7-year PhD. I think it's too long. I think 4 years is the perfect length, but a little longer or whatever. And the next year, as I said, we are going to next lecture. As I said, we are going to really put everything in perspective of the PhD topic. So today I'm gonna just discuss a bunch of issues that you need to realize. The first one is fundamental, which is research and scholarship. I don't know how many of you know the difference, but let me just explain. I mean, you say that you're a researcher when you look for something new. We discussed that. We are just in the previous lectures. You're really now trying to see what is outside, what is that nobody knows in the world, and then you need to do something new. And as I said last time, the why question is fundamental. There is a what question, what I need to look for, that nobody does. The why question, why it is important, and the how question, how I do it, how I should get it done, right? But so this is research. Research is just increasing human knowledge, right? And as I said, PhD in the end is about doing this, which is, as I said before, in a single paper of yours, or even in particular when you're going to do the PhD presentation at the end, The people are going to argue, have you done something new? What is new that you've done that nobody did before? And if you're not able to do it, then you don't get a PhD, as simple as that. So this is a key point. So this is research. But what is scholarship? Now let me go back to research. So there's a key point, which is that when you do research, just because you have to do something unique that nobody did before, you're arguably on top of knowledge in the world. You should be able to go to a top conference, in particular in our group, and really present something and be able to engage in the discussions and in topics with the people who listen to you, ask questions. So this really means the what I call the vertical dimension. But that's not good enough, because, for instance, you can do like a wonderful PhD, I don't know, any of you, like machine learning, like skeptical learning, some of you have done this, but that's not good enough. I mean, because what is the key point? The key point is that the probability that when you finish a PhD, you do exactly the same thing is zero, just because it was new. It was new, you solved the problem. It's just because you solved the problem, now it's no longer a problem. So now you have to move on. So what you take to the next problem you need to solve, you just take the way to think, the methodology. This is why it's called research methodology, right? And I already said the methodology is everything in research, in many things, but in particular research. And so the other dimension is scholarship. And I like to think about these terms like in vertical dimension, horizontal dimension, which is scholarship means knowing a lot, knowing a lot horizontally, being broad. And there are many reasons why being broad is a very good idea. First of all, because, as I say later, very often the new ideas come at the boundaries between different ideas. Sometimes maybe you do solve something in one area, but just because solving the problem in that one area, like in machine learning or in KR, is so deep, you forget a lot of details. And of course, the other ones, like in the other community, they're solving another problem, and they just do their own way. And of course, if you know both, then you can take both from both. You can take the best from both areas. Remember, I told you last time in the last lecture that an invisible college is defined by a community, a set of papers, a set of journals, by a set of problems. And let me say, there's something that people don't quite understand, which is when we talk about problems for a community, we really talk about not a problem in a very specific way. Like, so the problem in machine learning is get the new learning algorithm, which allows me to learn with better accuracy. Like in KR is you have to model more stuff. In process engineering, you have to do faster what you did before, do something you couldn't do before. In natural language, you must be able to do better translations and so on and so forth. But when you go to the end, all these problems that each community deals with are all aspects of most likely the same problem. For instance, in our group now, we are concentrated, we call it diversity, knowledge diversity, I want to call it. We are concentrated on the effects of globalization of culture in technology. In all our group, if you look at the one topic that we work on is how do we explain, how do exploit the fact that we are connected to the web. Let me just remember that to put this in perspective, just to put the group, right? If you think when I was young, not really young, but younger than now, the web came around. And that at the beginning, I remember the early days, like 1 million nodes, 2 million nodes, 2 million sites, and so on. And then thought everything was connected. And then everything was connected there, and then oh, that's great. But with the web 1.0, what was connected was people, not programs. Then people came around with the web 2.0. Web 2.0 is social media. Social media connect the people again, can even connect data, but the schema is fixed, which is Google has its own schema, like Facebook has its own schema. You don't connect the data from Facebook, data from Facebook or any other application. Then semantic web came around like 15, 20 years ago. And so semantic web said, we are connecting data, not people. It just failed. I mean, some major successes, but clearly at the moment, we do not have a global integration for integrating all of this. So the one problem that I'm saying and that we're concentrating in the group is how to connect knowledge and people in the web seamlessly, right? So this is the common problem that we do with the group. But then if you think of the group as a concrete instance of what I'm talking, is that, okay, there are people with really the issue of natural language. There is an issue. When you speak Italian, you speak English, you have to connect. Then there is the knowledge level. Okay, you just represent, you have this schema, this other schema. How do we put them together? Then there is a data level. Oh, yes, you use a unit of measures, kilograms, I use pounds. How do we put them together? Then there is the people level. People just do whatever they want. Okay? So you see that this common problem has been split in many areas. And by the way, each of these areas has a lot of sub-communities. So in natural language, there's computational linguistics. There's a natural language generation people. There is a natural language understanding people. There is a machine translation people, a community. These are colleges, not people, are just groups, right? So what is a key point that I remember in all days, even if you become outstanding and top in one area, like you do your wonderful PhD on the research area, like machine learning or skeptical learning, whatever, you need to know at least everything in the entire machine learning, and possibly community, and maybe even more. Why? Because in this big why, because as I said, what we call problems is really a very specific technological problem that you're trying to solve. And but the real problems, the problems which improve the quality of life, the problems which really makes a difference, the problems which allow to go ahead are not these ones. For sure, whatever you do technologically is just a little bit and piece. So achieving scholarship means, first of all, never forget the problem, which is never forget the why question. Not only that, but while you're trying to you're really very busy solving your problem, because you have to fight with the rejections, you have to fight with all the technology you don't understand, you have to take classes learning, blah, 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 or fighting all of this, then you also have to build for scholarship. And scholarship, as I said, is fundamental, first of all, because, as I said, locally helps you in solving the current problem. It will for sure help in the future. It will help you to answer the why question. And ultimately, it will be something which will allow you, whenever you go, to interact meaningfully. Because you see, suppose that you give a problem, you give a solution to a problem, you go and give a talk, and then you say, and someone asks a question, tells you, well, but you've done in this way, but in the other community have done in this way, they already solved the problem, okay? Well, as I usually say, in a qualifying, as a first-year PhD student, you can say, this is out of my state-of-the-art, I didn't know, it's fault of my advisor. But at my age, if I go around and someone tells me, oh, by the way, there's the entire area of research you forgot, you're out of business. You understand? And of course, this being knowledgeable in the large is fundamental, right? And also what gives you flexibility in learning. So what does that mean? First of all, means that, you see, giving seminars is very good, not only because you learn how to ask questions, but because it's a good opportunity to learn about other stuff. I mean, you're lucky enough that you're huge. Our group is actually quite huge, and there are a lot of areas. Don't be stupid just to go to the seminars only by your area. I mean, just learn about everything. Just go to lunch with someone with another area, talk to them. It's for free. I mean, you can really learn a lot. And of course, if you do machine learning, you'll never become an expert in natural language and vice versa, but it's for free. Remember that what you learn by what I call by osmosis, by the possibility that you're in a group where you know that is fundamental. And I think this is why I think now in the PhD program they put a minimum requirement of seminars for students to take. I push for that and so on. This is why some of you in the first year and not later the second year may go to a summer school and so on. Get broad. And this is exactly the fundamental. And it's really fundamental, the scholarship one, because all of you, I mean, we keep you so busy, in doing the research that you forgot this other one, right? Some of you people say, okay, I don't go to the seminar, I don't care. That's too bad. I mean, if a seminar on another topic, I mean, first of all, you may want to spend like 1 hour to read the abstract, understand what you're talking about, and learn how to ask questions to that person. Asking questions is not only a way to challenge the person, it's also a way to increase your knowledge. And what better way to learn something for free, to invest only 1 hour of your time, read maybe half an hour the paper before, and then you think of a question and you get the person to answer your question for you. I mean, that guy, if he's not stupid, and in our group we don't have stupid people, luckily. I mean, if he knows what he's talking about, of course, there is a matter of degree with the more you go in what you know in terms of the PhD. You just get a very knowledgeable person to give you an answer. It's for free. I mean, why don't you do this, right? So let me repeat, I mean, there are groups where you do the PhD alone. I mean, in your group, you're like five or six per office, right? Talk to the people, just answer. Spend this time for free, right? Of course, you can talk about soccer, whatever you want, food, whatever, but it doesn't cost much to do this. And this is really the one way to build this dimension. Because remember, let me say, no matter what you do at the end of the PhD, what you do in the end of the PhD will be different, even if you stay in the same group. By definition of research, a problem is solved, you move on. And when you move on, you have no idea what's going to be the next problem, right? Then there are people who are more interested in pushing more the technology aspect, are more interested in pushing the problem part. That's okay. Each of you can do whatever you want. The way you intend the scholarship is your take, is your piece of cake. You decide what you are, you decide what you like more. That's okay. I mean, and then of course, if you go to the right one, you do a better career, you publish better. So, but these are all details. Ultimately, in my perspective, when you do a PhD, you do something, you just do what you like, and then you have to try to convince what you like also the others should like. That's fundamental. But this is the key point. So scholarship is really the first dimension, okay? And this is kind of the baseline, all right? Moving on, factors of success. So the first one is commitment. I mean, first of all, it's interesting. Some PhD students come around, they have a very clear idea what they want to do, right? And that's okay. But I mean, if you want to do something which is not in the main expertise of your advisor, you can do it, but then the advisor becomes kind of useless. I mean, if you come to my group and do computer graphics, okay, first of all, I will not take you because not because I don't like computer graphics, simply I have no time, I'm already too broad. But then the point is that you just don't collect the expertise, right? So the fundamental issue is sometimes people come to the PhD and say, oh, I want to do this because I like it. Yes, some element of that is important. But the key point is that, in my experience, is that pretty much almost each single topic is interesting. Because when you go deep, can be sure, no matter what you choose, you can dig as much as you want. And what really matters is not the topic, but whether you commit to it. Clearly, your taste, as I said, what you want to do, what you like to is important. Like, if you like to program, you should do something more close to programming. If you like more to be theorist, you put more theory. If you like machine learning more, of course, there is dimension, but it should be a broad dimension to make sure that ultimately this fits your taste. But given that, the key point is commitment. Now, what does commitment mean? Commitment means a lot of work, a lot of dedicated work. I produced the Vademecum. We are talking about this in the group, where like a 30-page document where I say the guidelines for doing a PhD, right? So, and in a certain part, I wrote something. If you do a PhD with me, you should work at least 50 hours per week, up to 70 hours per week. So meaning like 10 hours per day, 7 days. No, it's okay. That's too much. I don't think I wrote 70. Maybe I wrote 50. But like meaning you'll work 5 days a week, very busy, then you work Saturday afternoon, and you do some work on Sunday. And do you say, oh, you're just trying to exploit me? No, it's not like this. The point here is there are two facts. As I usually say, to build quality, you need quantity. I mean, if you don't really invest in the work, you don't really go deep in issues. And since, let me say, there's another thing that people don't understand. The PhD salary is low, but the PhD salary, as low as it can be, is the only time in your life when you're paid to study. So the time you have now to study will never happen again. So be sure. And some people view when I graduate fast. Oh yeah, you can graduate fast, but then you pay the price later. So you're here in the different modalities. All of you have a lot of free time. You can eat every day. Maybe you can go doing big things, but you can do things, and you have time just to study, to learn. I mean, what you learn and don't learn in the PhD is going to be crucial for all your life. Never again you have this time. Okay. So this issue of working and reading and going to seminars is fundamental. And this is what I mean by commitment. Lots of work and dedication. Really trying to learn, failing at times. In particular, the first year is the year of failures, lots of failures. Of course, all of this is personal. An interesting part is that, as I learned in my experience, that no two PhD students are the same. But each of them has a different path. And then, of course, as an advisor, you have to try to find the best way for each of them. Yeah, they all have the peculiarities, right? So that's what makes it fun. But then the key point, no matter you do it, that's the key point, commitment. Commitment. A commitment means being ready to get rejected lots of time, being ready to fail a lot of time, being ready to rewrite the same paper 20 times, and then can be sure that if you commit, in the end you learn. Some people learn weaker and faster, but let me tell you, if you don't have commitment, you may even get a PhD, more or less a random PhD, but ultimately, when you go out for the job, you just know less. Because remember, the PhD, when you do a PhD, you just, I mean, doing a PhD is not a good title. I mean, it's a good title, but then they do interviews, right? Like in Google, some of our students went to Google, are 9 interviews. In Facebook, there are 7 interviews. I mean, they have to go through all of them. Of course, I'm just talking very high salaries. But this is what you're talking about. Even in a normal company. I mean, you think you're gonna, right? I mean, if you're a PhD, you have to live up for it. Okay, and even in academia, if you do academia, of course you have to publish, and then you have to publish, and then they will ask you questions, and they will ask you, oh, you have all these names with Fausto Giunchiglia, so are you a clone? I mean, you do what he taught you, or are able to think by yourself, right? Are you able to argue? Are you able to interact? You understand? So all of this just means engagement, means commitment, means, as I said, a lot of hours and doing the right thing, going to seminars, asking questions, writing papers, so on and so forth. So commitment. So these are the first point. But then the second one then is autonomy. And autonomy is really the toughest one. I mean, in general, in my expertise, in my experience, I found out that the best students, the best PhD students, the ones who made the most out of the PhD are the oldest. I mean, sometimes people just graduate and get to the PhD, and by the time they understand what the PhD is, already 3 years have passed. I mean, I had students who start the PhD at 35 years old, like 38 years old. People quit the job to come. Those ones, they know what they want. There was a choice. They gave up a salary. Maybe they have children, and they come, and they are autonomous. They know what they want. They are whatever, and they just go for it, right? But what does autonomy mean? Autonomy does not mean that you decide by yourself what to do, just because you're not able to do research. Autonomy means really being able to learn how to do research in an autonomous way. And I really said that time, I think the hardest part is really in the PhD, in the research, is really to know what you don't know. I mean, say if you think about it, It's like when it's like everybody, like at the bar, sometimes I complain with some of you, I say, I mean, what you're telling me, you're not at the bar, we're not like in a pub, we're not drinking beer, talking about, none. We're doing research, right? So when you go to the pub, I can talk about politics, I can talk about driving cars, but I'm not an expert, I'm not, right? So you need to distinguish. So what is the key point to know what you don't know? Because pretty much we know almost something about everything. It's interesting. Because if you think of what you know and what you don't know, there are two things about what you know and what you don't know, right? There are the things you don't know, and you don't know that they don't exist. So they don't exist. So you don't need to know about them. So they are irrelevant. I mean, who cares? Then the thing that you know they exist, and then you know something, right? You know something. For instance, like right now about ethics. Everybody now has become an expert in ethics. But then you go and talk to an expert in ethics, you realize that it's not exactly everybody. But when you know, the point here, okay, you know, but do you know enough to solve the problem? Do you know, and this will come up when I write papers, when you go to the write papers, if you submit it to a conference or if you give a talk, do you know enough to answer the questions that the person in front of you will ask? So when you give talks and when you write papers, as we say later on, I spend a lot of time into this. Some people say, I write a paper, then I decide to submit. No, no, because since none of us, even including the old ones like me, know everything, there are two fundamental rules. First of all, you know what you know. And number two, you know what the guy in front of you knows. So you can really decide how much you can talk. This is why I told about you in the qualifying. Go to the people. Who are the people that qualifying? Don't ask them, don't push the area. If you get the person, if you don't do NLP, you get Bernardo is an expert in NLP or someone else, don't go indexing your resources. He's going to shoot you down for sure. Because what is obvious, he's not trying, even if he doesn't do it on purpose, right? For him, it's obvious. What is obvious to him, you have no idea. Maybe you just have, and then maybe it's actually worse because the best way when you do this, you say, I don't know, it's out of my scope. But in the worst case, that you think you have an idea, and then you answer that for sure, even much more bigger trouble, right? And then the question becomes, you have to do science, a really scientific discussion. So what you know and what you don't know is really fundamental because you have to define the boundary. And clearly, when you do the PhD, in the end, you must be able to argue in your PhD what you do, what you're doing in your PhD, nobody has done before. And this is why you do the state of the art. We get back to this when we talk about it. This is actually fundamental. Then know what to ask, know when to ask, and know the boundary is. Now, to ask to whom? Right? For sure to your colleagues at lunch. For sure when someone gives a talk. For sure to your advisor. So now the interaction with the advisor is the toughest part of the PhD, at least the first year. You have to really get the matrix right because not to advise in the same way that not two students are the same, not two advisors are the same. So, and by the way, there are types of advisors, right? And you can argue. So for instance, there is the kind of, I'm an advisor of the kind of old advisor, but there are also the young advisors. The young advisors are very enthusiastic. Most likely they are pretty much your age or a little older, maybe like 5-6 years older, and they are enthusiastic, they are growing, and you work with them, right? Most likely they give you much more time. And then of course this is not true because it depends on the person, but in average, you can argue that. But then of course they know much less. And this is kind of the assistant professor level. Then you can get the associate professor level. The assistant professor, the associate professor levels are those ones who need to become full professors. So they need to publish a lot. So then to goal is publish. And they're pretty much older than the junior ones, but they want to publish. And in this game of publishing or growing, which is perfect, I'm not saying it's wrong. You understand? There's no value judgment here. Then what is the risk that maybe in particular in the first two, like associate professor and assistant professor, the first two, you get more of their time. Of course, you get more time from the assistant professor. You get less expertise, but I mean, they have to do career. So they have concrete goals. They have to increase their salary. They have to feed their children. So what were they to do? Then this means that the risk is there. They can try to, they will help you a lot in growing. And sometimes they try to only put you your work so that it's very instrumental to their work, and they will spend a lot of time. But what is the risk on your side? The risk on your side in the first two types of people, and then, as I said, it's not a matter of judgment again, is that maybe they are so eager to be effective that they don't leave space to decide yourself, which means in the end you become a wonderful paper writer, you become a wonderful experiment doer, but you don't learn how to think. I mean, you learn a lot how to do solutions, you learn a lot about the solution space, but you don't learn in the problem space, right? While the right answer is that the right problem space balance with the solution space, right? Then you get someone like me. Someone like me, if it is odd, maybe it may not care about it. So the ones like me are the more risky. They have less time, they have less interest, and they have a lot of experience, but maybe they're even more students, like in my case. But at the same time, a lot of experience. So then you have to, which one you choose, up to you. Actually, when you do a PhD, you don't really choose, just more or less like tossing a coin. But it's important that you put in perspective. This applies to research and so on. Like, suppose that you're lucky you get someone like me who really wants to do research. Most likely, I mean, someone like me, I'm just not talking about myself. I mean, like, I don't know, I publish like 300, 400 papers. I publish like 100 journal papers. I have lots of contracts. Do I care about publishing the papers? Yes. For you, maybe. For me, yes. One more is very important, right? So there is a risk of being detached, right? There's a risk that he really wants to go to the big fish, like I'm doing. But then, I mean, like when people like you are young, you have to go for the small fish. You have to grow, right? Just to do the fundamentals, right? So there you have to be very careful. And most likely there is where the autonomy is even more important. Right. For instance, to me, I'm saying this, I just putting this in perspective, and I'm saying that to me, autonomy is very important. It's one key aspect that I try to teach you. And I put all that in perspective to say that I don't pretend to be right or anything. Actually, asking for autonomy from you and asking for you to concentrate more on the problem statement, I'm making it harder for you to work. And this is why, but at the same time, I think you learn more. But I'm saying, do I pretend to be right? No, I don't pretend to be right. Maybe I must say that I was always like this. By being older, this kind of tendencies tend to grow. Now, if you have a PhD like me, a PhD advisor like me, and then you have to do, then autonomy becomes a real issue. Becomes a real issue, because exactly what I'm trying to teach you. And because I'm not teaching only to write papers, I'm teaching how to do a PhD. This is why I'm doing these lectures, you understand? This is part of to teach how to do the game, to play the game. So I want you to learn how to do a PhD, I learn how to write papers, I learn how to ask questions. I want you to learn, and the way I do it very concretely. Anytime you interact with me, you have to do it in my own game. And if you don't do it in my own game, I just stop the game. So what are the dimensions? So first of all, when to ask, I'm gonna go through the concrete things. When to ask, right? So when to ask the other question. So my usual way of saying this, deciding when to ask is fundamental. It's actually the hardest part in particular the beginning when you work with me, but I would argue with everybody. Maybe with me I may make it a little more extreme, but I think what I'm saying is pretty much the problem of when to ask, when to fix a meeting. When to fix a meeting. It's fundamental. Here my usual grade goes as follows. That's very fundamental. It's very fundamental trade-off. The trade-off between what and what. First of all, you don't want to ask me every hour to meet every hour, every day. Why? Because you waste a lot of time. So the third time you come in 3 days in a row, you say, wait guys, I mean, I have like other PhDs to work on. So you cannot do it. But people asking me too much is actually not the rule, the common. The common is that vice versa. People don't ask to meet me, maybe because I'm old, because of whatever. And people tell me, oh, we don't ask you because you're busy, right? And my usual answer, I think I gave that answer like 3 days ago, is being busy is my problem. Your problem is to get a meeting with me. So you don't worry, I'm old enough, I know how to handle my busy. So you have to ask a question with me. But what is the key point that you don't understand? A PhD is 3 years or 4 years, but it's a limited amount of time. If you waste 1 month because you don't ask a meeting with me, is 1 month wasted. So if you don't ask a meeting with me, you waste your own time, right? And by the way, this is very particularly true for the Eastern cultures. The Western cultures are more aggressive, more whatever. I have to feel the Arab, I don't know the Arab culture where they are, but for sure, East and West are very different in this. I mean, and this is why I'm saying this is very important. I have to learn to ask questions. You have to learn to fix a meeting. Another question is, okay, so you have to, this I'm using Einstein argument. You have to do as soon as possible, fix a meeting, but not sooner, right? How did you decide? Did you decide that it is as soon as possible, but not sooner? Because if you come to the meeting with me, you have to have done the homework. You have to be ready. So people come to me and they tell me, I've done this. Is it okay? That's not a good thing. I mean, like, what do you mean? You have written 50 pages. You asked me to read 50 pages. Probability I read the 50 pages, 20 pages, 0, right? Right. So I have no time. And then not only that, sometimes the good ones, they put you some yellow, say they make an evidence, so they get put a color. So they say, read that part. But the probability is 0 again. Someone, they tell you 50 pages. Now you understand, I have like so many students, people come to me. In some cases, I don't even remember what I told the last time. Most of the time I remember, but sometimes we start a meeting and I write a lot of notes. I do the homework for myself. I believe I prepare the meetings with you, but most of you don't prepare the meetings with me. So what does it mean to do the homework? First of all, you have to prepare. How do you prepare? So let me make another point. Some people wait so long, and they wait so long maybe for 2 reasons. Because they are worried, and that's bad, because maybe they're stuck. Or maybe they're going so well, they're doing a lot of work, so they don't come to me for 2 months. And then after 2 months, they come to me and say, oh, I've done this and this, what do you think? Well, in 2 months, I mean, how can you pretend me that in 5 minutes, I kind of are able to catch up what you did in 2 months? So either you did nothing, in which case it's bad, or you did a lot of work, in which case it's bad, because I have no hope to help you, right? So for instance, suppose that you're doing this, then if you do this, even if you're doing very well, then you don't need to talk to me. Then you fix a meeting to tell me, look, I've done this. I don't need your help. I've done this. I don't need your help. In the meanwhile, you check. And for sure, I can be sure that if you tell me what you've done, I'll find good ways of providing feedback. So rule number 1, you have to fix a meeting regularly with me, right? So these as soon as possible, no sooner, right? Let me make another point. You may have noticed, some of you, because I do this, that so all of you, or most of you, because then of course every person, as I said, is a different case. So the rules are just bound to fail in general. But for some of you, the ones who are more junior, less experienced, when we start the work at the beginning, I fix the meeting. I say, let's fix the meeting in 2 weeks, right? Or in 3 weeks. When I do this, because I don't trust you're able to fix a meeting with me, this means that I don't believe you're able to fix a meeting with me in the right time. So given that I don't want you to waste time, I just give you some kind of pace. And some of you need it because they need some pace, right? Right. Some other cases, I just say at the end of the meeting, you want me to fix a meeting or you fix a meeting? That's one level up, all right? And then the last case where, and let me just say something. And the first time, some of you I've done for some time, and this meeting regularly is also good, not only because you don't know how to fix a meeting, but because sometimes in the early day of research, there is a big need. I know that if you go ahead too much, right, you go ahead too much, and then I lose you. So just to do method regularly, right? So it's not that I don't do this, I do this. So some of you, I do it regularly, right? In particular, when some of you are senior, but with some of you, when you're junior, I just do because I need. So why would I want to fix a meeting every week? Because I needed to control what you're doing. Right? I need to make sure that you're making progress. So I can do it. Why? Because there are two cases. Either otherwise you don't progress correctly, otherwise you progress correctly and I lose you, and which you go ahead, right? And this, okay, we do this. So this is one pattern, and that's easy. But at a certain point, when the meeting becomes mature, you have to learn how to fix the meeting yourself. And that's become the issue, right? Now, when you do this, how do you prepare now your game? Because when you do weekly, it's to give me an example. With Ronald, we meet every week. With Danish, we meet every week. So it's not that I do, I mean, Ronald is the most senior person. Why? Because we know that a lot of work, he's doing a lot of work, and they need to keep me updated. The same with Danish. We have to do a lot of things and so on. So with him, with you, various people I do this. But because I know that in these areas we need to push, right? But this one thing, and that in a sense is easy, because week after week, it pretty much we agree for the next week, right? Sometimes you don't need to meet, or there's nothing to meet, but pretty much. But this means that I commit some time into it. But when I go to the other one, because the other one is really what you need to learn, which is how you fix a meeting. I said you have to fix a meeting soon, but not sooner. And you have to do the homework. So what does it mean to do the homework in the meeting with me, right? So most of you, some of you just say, oh, I go to the meeting and I tell what I've done. No, that's wrong. I mean, I don't need you to do this. If I want to know what you've done, I just can ask you as I want, or I can look at the document. Now we have overleaf, so I can read, and so on. If you come to a meeting with me, it's a meeting that you call, you must have very clear your objectives. You have to say, from Fausto, I want to get this information 1, this information 2, this information 3, this problem I do not know how to solve, and therefore I need to ask this question. And then if it says that, I need to anticipate the question, the answer is going to give me. And then if it does that, I think that. You have to prepare the meeting with me. And you have to drive the meeting wherever you want. Because you can be sure that if you do that, and I let you drive, I notice immediately, and I let you drive, but then if I think you're wrong, I let you talk, and then I say, what about this? And then I drive in another way. But if I push in another way, that's good, because this means the meeting came out with something new. But the ultimate, at the end of the day here is, you have to get to the meeting deciding this is what you want to do, and you have to get to the meeting saying this is what you need to have taken home, right? Or pretty much none of the PhD student does it, right? This is really what you have to learn, because ultimately I can help as much as you want, but it is only you who can drive your own research. I can give you suggestions on research. I gave you my ideas. And ultimately, if you spend your time doing what I'm telling you, you'll not spend your time in understanding what you want to do. But then, of course, you come to me, and therefore you have to convince me. You follow me, and then you say, maybe what you're doing might be this and this. And by the way, I don't think it's a good idea to do it at the first year, but this should be increased in the second year and so on, because the more you move on, the more you're able to have your ideas. And this is exactly the autonomy argument, right? This is exactly what makes you strong. So this is the key point. And sometimes, and by the way, but then you come and you first of all come because you don't understand. That's perfect. Come because you have an idea. That's perfect. But you have an idea, then I start pushing you. I start asking you, like in a question answering. Why do you do that? You do that, and you get it wrong. Is that wrong? No, it's good. I mean, you come with an idea. You try the idea is bugged. But as someone said, there's no best way to learn than to fail, right? I mean, I'm here to make you fail. I'm very good at making people fail. I usually say I'm very good at complaining. Since I'm very good at complaining, just use me. No better, I can make mistakes, of course, but I'm a very good test for your ideas. So, but the bottom line here is fix a meeting as much as you want, as early as you want, but prepare the homework. You come to the meeting saying, I want to get this, this, and this, and at the end of the meeting, you go in the office and you don't forget. You just go through the meetings, you take notes and say, this I got, this I got, this I didn't get, so I need to ask another question, so on and so forth. Or whenever you feel there is something new that you need continuous meeting with me, you just say, let's meet every week. There's a fundamental of every 2 weeks, regularly, because you say, in this moment, I need to be continuous support, and therefore we do this. That's perfect. And it's perfect to do that, but the key point is that you must be in control of your time. Autonomy, you must be in control of your results. You must design your own questions. You must drive the discussion. If you disagree, you have to tell me you disagree, and so on and so forth. You must really be able to engage in scientific discussion. Ultimately, it's all a game. You need how to think. So this autonomy is really, and by the way, autonomy is very hard at the beginning, which brings like flexibility and openness. I mean, like clearly, ultimately you have to do a PhD, but pretty much, in particular, the first year, when I started PhD, we all are in the middle of nowhere, right? We don't know where we're going. You don't know. I gave you a PhD topic, pretty much have a rough idea, but not quite. And of course, there are two options. Either you make proposals, in which case I may agree or disagree, okay? Or I make proposals, right? And I'm arguing that the first year pretty much is on the advisor side to make proposals, right? But what is the difference? That in your PhD thesis, you're supposed to work 50, 70 hours a week. On your PhD thesis, when I go, of course, is an average. Sometimes I work even full week on a PhD topic because it's a crucial moment. By an average, I think that it's easy to claim that I'm going to work 1/10, and this is very optimistic than your time. I'm not going to work 5 hours per week on the days of yours, right? I mean, like say, like I mean, 150, like 50 hours yours, 1 hour mine, right? So, okay, now I'm very experienced, I'm very good, but now you're putting your bets on 1 hour a week on my time. Well, if you want to do that, that's perfect. Sometimes you have to do it, but then you have to convince me. You have to entice me. You have to tell me a challenging problem. You have to show me that the research is going in the right direction. You understand? So this flexibility and openness is really, given the autonomy argument, really how you play this game of being flexible and open. I was playing again the autonomy, but the flexibility openness has a lot to do with the autonomy, because let me just say better what I said before. If I tell you to do something, it's just wrong that you go home and do exactly what I said. You have no hope to do exactly what I said, because you cannot get in my mind. You have to do the best homework. You try to understand what I said. What you don't understand, you ask me. And since I tend to, and I know that I tend to talk very abstractly, right? So, by the way, do I choose that? No, this is how I am. Sorry, I mean, that's how I am. I am not gonna do about that. You just ask me. Let me, and then maybe you can find that I don't know what I'm talking about. That's good. I'd be very happy if you can tell me that I'm not know what I'm talking about. Or you force me to come up with a good example, and then you keep asking me. But in all of these, you have to be flexible. You have to be open. It's not only a matter of what you have to be able to follow my argument and build your own argument. And again, this is exactly where the scholarship helps a lot, right? Because if you know a single argument, I mean, you don't go anywhere. Right. In all of this, then there is a key argument, formulate research objective. This is really a very nice slide. So 3 layers. You have to understand what the problem is, and you don't see it. There is a problem, you don't see it. If there is something, there is some knowledge, you don't know the knowledge. Then the next one is, there is a problem, you see it, you see there is a problem, but you have no idea how to solve it, right? There is a problem, you see it, and as you know how to solve it, right? By the way, what is interesting, when I was teaching this class, I had like 50, 60 students. I gave everybody their homework. Give me 2 lines writing your problem for your PhD, right? All of them, but I mean all. They write the solution, not the problem. The problem was always to implement a piece of code, was not really asking the what question, the why question. It was always asking the how question, right? Now, of course, but then the question becomes, I mean, what is hard? And clearly, being able to recognize the problem as such is by far the hardest problem. Because this is that has to do, how do you know there is something that you don't know? As I usually argue, the step 2 for any here in the group should be easy, because I usually say for step 2, it is sufficient to be intelligent. I mean, if you're not able to write a piece of code, you are in the wrong place. As simple as that. If you're not able to reason intelligently and solve problems, like do problem solving, that's not the right place for you. So either you're out of the PhD soon, or step 2 from 2 to 3 is easy, right? But in this idea that I was saying of autonomy, of flexibility, openness, this is the key point, really forcing you to think out of the box, which is what makes a difference. So this is the second dimension. I said research and scholarship, and now I got into the issue of really being autonomous and using me to really learn how to think. Ultimately, it's all about learning how to think. And again, let me repeat. In the first year, I expected to be driving myself, driving the research. In the second year, you drive. I still drive, but pretty much you're autonomous and so on. You should be able to write. And I'll talk about this next lecture when we talk about to do the PhD. Third year. I mean, let me say, first year like 90-10 to me, right? Second year in terms of driving ideas and so on. Second year like 60-40. Third year 40-60. Fourth year you drive 9-10, 90-10. And of course this will reflect, your name will become first, you will do research, maybe you can do even research without me, you can do research something else, you understand? But all of this has to do with formulating research problems, all to learn how the methodology, how to follow. So what I'm saying that all of this, I'm not saying that you have to come learned, but what I'm saying is that when you're in the PhD and the first year in particular that you have a lot of trouble, you have to learn that this is the trajectory. If you don't do this, there is some problem. Now, let me say one more point. I'm going longer than I thought, I'm sorry. So what is very interesting is that, so at a certain point in the PhD of a student, the PhD somehow becomes autonomous. He's able to do all of this, right? And I already told some of you already, because these are things that come out of like 20 years of experience, so I keep telling the people about this. It's interesting because you get a student, and you start telling you have to do this, and then you tell him you have to do this, and then you tell him you have to do this for 1 year and a half, and they don't do it. And you have to do it, and they don't do it. You have to do it, don't do it. Then one day they come around, you say you have to do it, and they say, of course. Why did you tell me before? You spent 2 years telling them, and they didn't get it. So it's not that this growth for you is going to be linear. What I'm pointing, it's not that you learn how to do this all the time. It's an entire way of thinking that you have to change. You understand? So we'll have to, and this is that we need a lot of work. You have to insist, you have to insist, you have to understand, you have to debug yourself. You have to learn how to ask questions. You have to learn to ask questions to me. You have to learn how to control yourself. You have to learn how to deeper. And then someone later, someone sooner, this will come, okay? Why am I saying this? To say that when I said that the growth from year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, whatever, it's not that you go linearly. No, you go like jumps, right? And there are a lot of jumps, right? Anytime first you learn how to write a paper. You learn to write a paper linearly? No. I mean, like you're gonna rewrite a paper 20 times, and one day you actually got a good one. And then you learn how to ask questions. No, you don't. Actually, ask questions is easy. I mean, like asking questions is actually the easiest one. It just takes some guts. But writing papers is very hard. Doing research, making proposals, is engaging in scientific discussions. Be able in a scientific discussion to be on the ball. I mean, like we are in the discussion. I want to drive the discussion there. I want to go there. If you get me there and around my path, I'm going to get you back. I'm going to solve that when I'm going to get back. Be able to do scientific discussion, scientific thinking. Okay. And this is exactly why formulating the problem is very hard, because you have to see, understand what is your key problem that you need to solve. This is why you have to do the homework properly. This is why by doing the homework properly with me, in preparing the meeting with me, is really how you can really learn how to do the PhD. Then the next one is time management. Time management is interesting because of, like when you tell me, I'm not fixing a meeting with you because you're busy. I mean, this means you don't do it time management. But what do you do while you're asking, waiting for me to fix a meeting? Are you doing something else? Are you, collecting strawberries? I mean, what are you doing? I mean, sometimes I wonder, what is he doing? Well, if you get a message from me, we say, what are you doing? You should be worried, because this means that I don't know what you're doing, right? Is that bad or good? Not necessarily, because maybe you're doing something good. But if I ask you, this means that you made a major mistake in the case that I said before, in not keeping me updated what you're doing, right? So in the lucky case, you just made a mistake of not keeping me up to date in what you're doing. And by the way, I care about PhD students, so if I send you a mail asking what you're doing, it's not because I want to complain, right? I just want to know what you're doing, because I don't want you to waste your time. But again, I can't be me, spending all my life and we're not making waste your time, right? But the point I'm saying, if I tell you what are you doing, you should worry, because at least you made a mistake in not contacting me, in not keeping me updated. Just send me 2 lines. I'm doing this, or fix a meeting, right? You don't need to meet. I'm doing this. You don't need to talk. That's perfect, right? Or you're just stuck, in which case you're just wasting time. Time management is very important. So when I'm going to show you something obvious, so usually I put 1 slide each, setting goals, make to-do list of time wasters, right? So let me go through, and with this, I think I'll finish this lecture. I'm slightly behind, but pretty much okay. Set goals. So, I mean, do you have goals or not in this PhD? So now I have a slide on setting goals. What are your goals in your PhD? You have an idea? Some of you have, I have to publish a paper. I have to publish a paper. Well, I mean, publish a paper is the end of the process. That's okay. I mean, I like to do like 20 intermediate steps. Oh, you have to get the PhD? Yes. To get the PhD, you have to go like 100 intermediate steps. So when you say set goals, I'm not saying to get it sophisticated in setting goals, in getting the detail, doing a complete project management plan. This I do with some of you, because some of you have some complex tasks, but not for you. But even for you, we have to pass the comprehension. Right now, passing the comprehension, now we don't have it anymore. We dropped it. Passing the qualifying. This shows that these guys are the first version I wrote like 20 years ago. Passing the qualifying, passing exams, giving thesis, finding job. This is easy, but then there is upgrading horizontal dimension. Did you go to enough talks? Upgrading the vertical dimension. Did you do the state of the art? Did you check like for instance, in the first year, you write, you go, I tell you, and when I tell you, look at the top conferences, right? I told you most of you, right? What am I telling you? You have to understand what is your invisible college. But then some of you said, okay, now we've done the homework. Now you know the state of the art. But the next year, the state of the art is moved, right? So I wanted to learn that regularly, once a week, once a month, you decide, you have to go to the conferences, and you go to the proceedings, and you read all the papers that people have published. Are you doing this? Right? This is setting a goal. Attending seminars, right? Resolving research problems. Okay, I have to get that part. But did I do today? Like, I have to talk to Fausto because Fausto gave me my homework. Did I do that? How long am I not fixing it? Am I proceeding? I've been on this problem stuck for 1 month. If I go like this, I'm not going to get a PhD. You understand? So the point here is that all of these are kind of long-term goals, but these long-term goals, then they might become micro goals. I usually tell you, here is a major suggestion for all of you. Each week, each of you should allocate 1 hour analyzing the results they brought the week before, what they did, what they achieved, and making a plan for what they're going to do the next week, each week. Right? So assuming that to the PhD, the macro goals are obvious, the sense that I'm going to give an entire lecture, the next lecture, to what are split to the goals in the 4 years of a PhD, then I think we can go to the micro level or like the week level, the month level, and say, okay, have I done it or have not done it? Right? What did I do? So which means that in the week, the following week, you see what they've done, you should read what you wrote, what you decided the week before that you do. Because it'd be very good if you like a set of bullet points. So when I sit a meeting with you, what do I do with them? In some cases, I don't do it because I'm not needed. With some of you, I see they need more help. What I do, I say bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3, problem 1, problem 2. So it can be two reasons. Either you need help because you're not able to do it, or you need help because it's too complex, right? There are many cases, of course, you have to scale. So in the same way as when I give you bullet 1, I call it the agenda of the meeting. But when I call the agenda of the meeting, you know what, the way I do the agenda of the meeting? I just make sure that I put each point so that, since for sure the next meeting I don't remember, I have one sentence which reminds me what I need to ask you the next time, which is exactly so that if I need that you've done your progress. So I'm helping you in some cases, not only this. You have to do the same to yourself. You have to control, you have to control the way you move. You cannot be at the end of the 3rd year that you know where you are. So the setting goals is fundamental. The setting goals is, in a sense, the what. The goals is what you need to achieve. The goal is something that you haven't achieved and that you have to achieve, right? If you think about it, the goal is the what when you do research. The goal, you have to solve the problem, is a goal. It's a micro goal. Like eating every day is a micro goal. If you're lucky, you don't need to worry about this. Like sleeping every day is a micro goal. I mean, like doing gym, enough, this is my goal. And then the question, how you do it? Make a to-do list. You have to keep track of what you're doing. And my suggestion here is really to like a ABC, 3 priorities. And of course, this is exactly what you should do. I really suggest to you that every week you should manage ABC, right? And of course, something which is C can go to B, or from B can get to A, and then you change. But even spending like, maybe for you half an hour is enough, but you half an hour, like the Monday morning from 11:30 to 12 o'clock, that was something, I mean, it can be any time, of course, you decide whenever you want. Like sit down, you write, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, right? Priority A could be next week. Priority B could be next month. Priority C could be in 6 months. Priority C could be, priority C should be the PhD level. I need to publish papers. Priority B, I need to give a talk in a month. Priority C, priority C, I want to go abroad for some time. You understand? So this priority A, B, C, in particular, the C ones should be aligned with the objective I'm going to give you in the next lecture. But then you have to move because you have to run your every week work. Priority A, this means you have to do it. And sometimes I do things that I don't like, but that's part of life, right? There is no free lunch. It's very objective. So the point I'm saying is very important. Like when you go for the next week, is really type priority A. Next week, I have to do this, right? And you have, at the end of the week, have you done it or no? Otherwise, you keep pushing, right? If you keep pushing and delaying, it's your problem, not my problem, right? Maybe you get a PhD anyhow, but you don't learn, you don't achieve goals, right? And by the way, I don't mean doing this because you're ambitious or anything. I just mean for you to be, let me use the word awareness, to be aware. I'm not saying that means that you want to do a lot. I just mean you have to be aware, you have to be in control. You understand? It doesn't mean that you want to work. I'm not saying that you have to work 50 hours per week because you have to do a lot. No. I'm saying if you really want to become deep, you have to invest a lot of time. But if you want to make sense of this time, you have to be in control of what you're doing. It's a wide awareness issue. It's not a work a lot, achieve a lot. Achieving a lot it can be a side effect. If you work well and if you are aware of what you're doing, achieving a lot will come for free, right? But pretty much you really have to really be in control of what you're doing. And each week you must be sure, have you done it or not done it? As simple as that. Did I do it or no? I want, by the way, it can't be, it was interesting. Sometimes I tell people, okay, we have to write this document by a month, right? So what some of you say that if you write the document this month, you mean we have I have written the first version of that document for next month. I mean the document is finished in next month. So it's not that you have to say I plan in a month priority B just to have done something. You have to have done something which achieves a goal. Because if in a month we have to write a paper or an internal document, are you following? And we write it, but then if the work is not done well, and we have to write it next month, we're just pushing it. Not that there is nothing wrong in pushing ideas transversal. It's not that you have to be only object-oriented, right? I mean, like goal-oriented this way, as I said, because sometimes it takes time. With some of you said, let's do it in relaxed. Why? Because you need to think. Some issues don't solve in one day. Some issues need thinking. And this would be stupid to think that you do everything 1 week. You go, I publish a paper for 2 months, I paper another 2 months. No, I don't think in this way. Some people do that, it's not me. If you really want to learn how to think, you have to really go and think and knowledge. But sooner or later, you have to deliver. And you have to understand when this type of, which means you move from priority C to priority A, right? By the way, priority A could be like in a month, because if you have to write a paper, writing a paper is priority A. I hope that if you write to write a paper priority A, you don't start the week before, because if you say later, you have no hope, in particular the junior, to write a paper in a month. They must become priority A like in 1 week. You have to become priority 1 month before. So we make it priority A, having an idea of how time it takes. So writing a paper, submitting a paper, not writing a paper, to a top conference must become priority A at least 1 month before. Are you following? Good. And you must push me, because again, it should be you driving me, not me. The more grow you, the more you become senior, the more you have to make a priority A for me, right? Of course I do this work, but let me say, I want to go to the example. If I do this work for you, I do this, and sometimes I do it because I like the work and so on, but I'm not helping you. It must be you more and more becoming autonomous, right? Otherwise, I play the game of the assistant professor, which is okay. I do it as well. I like it. But the more we go into this modality, priority B, I like important, right? Priority B is like keep doing assessment of the state of the art, going to enough seminars, doing something that you do, like doing shopping once a week, something like this. Yeah, you know that is not a priority, but you have flexibility, right? It's kind of running it, but you have to do it, because if you don't do it, then you don't build up. Like achieving scholarship is never going to be priority A, right? But it should also be priority B. Giving talks at the seminar can become priority in this seminar. The group seminar can become priority A the week before, but should become priority B all week. And it's very, all years, I'm sorry. It's very interesting when I tell you, I just show you, let's do the seminars. It's interesting. If you look at what the seminars involved in the Excel sheet, the last dates are always the first you fill, because people start as late as possible, right? And then always the next week is the one which becomes filled last. Why? Because people don't want to enter the seminar in the type A modality. But that's wrong, because if you are surprised, this means that you ask me to remind you to the seminars. And by the way, you can believe me, I don't care about these seminars. I don't need them. I mean, I can talk to you any moment of time. Seminars for you as a speaker, and for you as a listener. Not only because you learn for free, but because you learn not only the topic, you learn the questions, so on. So these seminars that we have in some are very fundamental for you. And I'm sure that you have something more interesting to do. I'm sure that's part of life. But you have to you want to build a scholarship, that's the way to do it. You don't want to do it, again, each of you ultimately is your own arbiter of yourself. There's nothing wrong. Again, what I'm giving is guidelines. And by the way, all of this is obvious. But when the practice is much less obvious than what you think. So all of you are keep making a lot of mistakes because it's very hard to change yourself. This is why I was talking about the awareness part. But I hope that by this talk, maybe listening again, maybe you get something out of this. So I'm doing my homework, but I can't decide for you, right? And maybe we put this video online. Maybe some of you will go and see again the video, and we think about it. Then you will decide what you want to do by yourself. Okay? So they're just hints. And this for the priority. When the priority C is the can wait. I can wait. So for instance, give me a can wait. I have a to-do list. Like I need to decide where you go abroad somewhere. This one can wait in this one. I can wait. Why? Because it's not urgent. But I know that I need to think. But I know sooner or later to become priority B. And sometimes it become priority C. Actually go from priority C to priority A. Priority C, like my priority C is I need to do all the administration work. Priority C is always my administration work. I hate it. I mean, any time is a pain. So usually the priority C works that it stays in priority C, and then priority C goes always to priority A because I do it as late as possible, but not later. And so I do all of this. And I'm sure you have the same. But again, the priority, and I have a piece of paper. You have an agenda about my priority C and priority B and priority A don't because it's in the calendar, right? But the calendar is very good to frame what you need to do, but it's not good enough because there are things that I cannot do in any moment. The priority B and priority C, they cannot go in the calendar because I'm gonna put, I don't know the date. I have flexibility, so I have another agenda. And usually easy, quick, and pleasant. I don't know what I wrote it to me. The priority is not quick and pleasant, but anyhow, it depends. But I think you got the flavor. And again, the priority A, B, C is up to you. I mean, you have to interpret. I mean, these are just guidelines. I wait for you to think. But up to you to decide you want. And the only point I'm saying, I suggest you make the to-do list with A, B, C, and all of you allocate half an hour every week, and you do it. By the way, you may end up deciding that it's not a good idea. That's fine as well. You can do whatever you want. It's not forcing to do anything. But you have to know that if you don't do it, you'll pay a price. Okay? It might be some people live very well. They're very successful. I'm not saying this is not a golden rule. It's only, you see, I think the goal of this talk is not to tell you how to do things. I don't want to do it. You decide. But at least to give you that there is a dimension over which you need to think, right? Once you think in this way, at least you know there is a problem. So you know that there is a problem. Is that you don't know, because maybe some of you before coming to this meeting, they didn't know about this. And then you decide what to do, but at least you know, right? So again, when I say make a to-do list, I don't mean you have to do it. I'm just giving suggestions. But let me say that in the PhD, if you do not control your time, maybe you have your own way, weird way, unique way, personal way to control time. That's okay. But if you don't control your time, you'll find very hard to meet the deadlines for the PhD they want to explain next week. And by the way, in the PhD is also, in the PhD is very hard to learn how to think. This is why it's very hard to do a PhD, different from a master's, but it's very easy in the sense that in the PhD it's very easy to assess progress. Did you pass the qualifying? Did you write a paper? Did you get the seminars? Did you get admitted? How good was the paper? You understand? And next lecture, I'm just going to concentrate on that part. So what I'm saying that this to-do list business that I'm telling you, you should do it. You should do it regularly, every week. I mean, of course, with exceptions and so on, based on the overall 4 or 5 year timeline of a PhD that I'm going to tell in the next lecture. There's one time wasters. And you can read them, up to you. I actually think that the new modality that we have now, because of COVID, there's some in, some out, I think is not bad. It gives you some flexibility. Sometimes you want to stay home. Sometimes you want to come here and meet people. I think meeting people is fundamental. I think that one thing that the group gives is the group. So coming is fundamental, but maybe differently from before. maybe one day stay home because you want to do work. That's perfect. So I'm saying that in all that bad that COVID generated, this ability to mix that is a good option. Up to you. I mean, up to you. Or maybe you have family at home and then you're going to do it. Up to you. Everybody is different. Everybody's a different situation. But the point here is really that no matter which time wasters, they can come many more, the issue of setting up priorities, the issue of setting up goals is very important. And not because here I'm telling you that we have to do a performance-based PhD. We're not talking about performance, right? We're not talking about achieving maximum speed. We're talking about learning how to do a PhD, to be aware of your goals, and to learn how to think, because ultimately this is what it is all about. With this, I finished. I think I went over time. Yes, a lot. And 1 hour, almost 2 hours. So we meet next time. Okay, thank you.